You know, and I know, and they know, 'cause we go all in. You know, and I know, they know, 'cause we go all in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the newest edition of What You've Been Missing. It's your boy K Dizzle DC, half of the dynamic duo, and my boy Hef Strings. What up, Hef?
What it do, K Dizzle? How y'all feeling?
Yo, I'm feeling fantastic, man. Welcome to the All Dressed Up podcast. Every Sunday at 9, you can find us right here. Oh, what is going on? I gotta switch that all too. I be forgetting, doing
What you
way too
got
much
going on?
flipping. How was your weekend? Happy Memorial Day weekend. We salute to all the soldiers. Welcome home. We're glad you're home safe.
Yes,
Thank you for your
yes.
service, but most importantly, we're glad that you're home. Um, how's your weekend so far, man?
It's been nice, man. Got to hang out with some friends of mine. Went to a cookout. What's up, Melinda? Went to a cookout indoors because the weather didn't quite cooperate. But the food was so good, man. I'm just recovering now.
Your
Like
food.
the food at the cookout was delicious. Hey, Shanae, what up, 410?
It's that time of the
It
year,
was
man.
delicious, man. The ribs and the chicken and what else? The burgers and the sausages. It was just man, heavy,
Yeah.
delicious, bro.
You doing a little too. Your reminiscence is a little too heavy, a little too
Yeah,
sound, a little too good, bro. Hey,
it,
it is that time of the year. We are starting to open up. The masks in that area has been lifted. The capacities have been lifted. We feeling some type of normalcy, man. It feels good. But see, you're also still kind of cautious too. My folks had a seafood boil and sweet baby Jesus, seafood boil. But yeah, I didn't get all the good hamburgers and hot dogs just yet. I probably slide through a couple spaces
how you been
later.
rocking out there in the streets with the mask? What you been doing?
I ain't been doing a whole lot in the streets, man. I'm still wearing
Really?
my mask like a little crazy person. You look a little different in the streets now, but not everybody got a mask on. You know what I'm saying? Some businesses still require it or recommend that you do. But you see a lot of people out there just no mask, just full on. Just hey, I'm here, we out here. What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? So look,
I showed up. I showed up to my function today, and
uh
when I got there, one of the aunties was like, "You been vaccinated?" Because I didn't have a mask. She didn't have a
right.
mask, and I said no, and she was like, "Oh, well." I'm like, what you want me to do? You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie to you,
Yeah.
but that just helps me keep my space anyway.
And that's the quandary in itself. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest thing I try to tell people, even if you have not gotten vaccinated, don't alienate the people that haven't gotten vaccinated. It's just
Right.
like anything else. It's more deadly. It's just more deadly, and it's your personal choice whether you decide to get vaccinated or not. Period. Point blank. So like you one of the homies. I got another homie. It's like nah. Mm-mm. He's known people. I've known people who gotten gotten the vaccine and still caught COVID and was having
Mm.
a terrible time with it. So it's not for everybody. If it's your decision, we hope that you do. They hope that you do, but look, your decision is your decision. Don't shame anybody.
Right.
It's similar to what we're gonna be talking about tonight. In that aspect,
True.
it's similar to what we're gonna be talking about tonight in that aspect. But let's slide through what we got to do. Hey, Shanae, 410 Melinda. We love y'all. Thank you all sliding through as you do every Sunday. But
We love you
let's
guys.
let's get into the sports, man. I don't even know what I can say. There's nothing I can say about I watched the
They left you speechless, man. I
movie.
tell you what,
Speechless.
it was like we just broke down game after game. And yesterday, watching Joel Embiid, just fly down the paint and just dunk on us at will, just let me know, like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
over.
yeah, Yeah, it's still too early.
Sometimes you just want to like throw in the towel after the third loss. Like, do you have to take the fourth to say you got swept? Can you just like throw in the towel?
You gonna have to take that L. Take that L like a grown man. They
So
just got
yeah, so that series is pretty much winding down. That's gonna come to an end. You got the Hawks, man, coming out to a 3-1 series lead over the Knicks. They just won again today, 113-96. Trey Young took it back to the ATL and started whooping that ass. Uh, big surprising win, I would say. Won't you say the Suns winning in time the series up 2-2 with LA was a little surprising today?
come on, man. Come on. Didn't I pick the Suns? We gotta rewind the tape. If I picked the Suns or not, because I'm pretty sure I picked the Suns. I don't care. Now they hating on Chris Paul since Chris Paul played dirty or everything else. Rewinding the tape, but they don't want to never rewind the tape with everybody else playing dirty. It's playoff season. What it is,
I mean, he's one of those wily old veterans, man. Shout out to
whatever.
Chris Paul.
It's 2-2. Okay. I'm not a LeBron hater. I'm not an anybody hater. I just think the Phoenix Suns gonna give them that work just because the Lakers have a target on their back, and that young boy is balling with Chris Paul. So
Okay.
see what's
And
what.
then you got the inevitable with Brooklyn, running away with it with them leading Boston right now 121 to 101. They're on their way to a 3-1 series lead. I
Mhm.
think Boston winning the game was pretty good, but that series is probably going to be coming to a close as well.
Yeah.
The Clippers and the Mavericks in a game for tonight. That game will be tipping off in about 20 minutes. Who you got in that series? Dallas is up 2-1. Can the Clippers
Dallas
escape? Can the Clippers escape the first round with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George?
Clippers are falling apart. They look a hot mess. Um,
Mhm.
no, no.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think too much Luka Doncic might be
Too much Luca.
the end of that series, and then we got Utah, Memphis. Memphis is down 2-1.
Hmm.
I don't know if Ja Morant is gonna have enough firepower to come out of that, but we'll see. They play again tonight, so
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what's what. But how in the world did Dallas after find their Dirk Nowitzki? Like immediately after Dirk
Baby
was
Bird, man. They
immediately.
call that kid Baby Bird.
How do they do that? How do they do that?
He's got the Europe. Hey, your boy Mark Cuban's got the European connection. He knows.
You know?
He's got a farming system
Got
over
the
there. He's got
tunnel.
somebody on lock. He's
Got
got
the
people in the
cartel tunnel.
streets.
Got the
I'm telling
cartel tunnel on them players. Look, man.
you.
Hey, Washington Wizards, man. Good
Hey
God.
man, but at the end of the day, we were like 17 and 35 at one point.
Yes,
Like
we were.
you can't expect, and that's typical. Uh, and you're not a real Washington fan, but I guess as far as the Wizards, you might follow us. But that's typical Washington fans. Like as soon as you give us a chance, championship. But
Mhm.
we weren't going anywhere.
No,
Let's not fool
no, we
ourselves.
want. No, we hope. Same thing we do with our your Redskins. Let me say your Redskins. They get to the
Mm.
playoffs, so you hope.
My Washington football team,
Yes, your Washington football team. Excuse me, your Washington football team.
vaccinated or not, you should still wear your mask. It's
Yeah,
still too early.
still too early. It is pretty early. It's early on in the game, so you still got to be careful. But
Melinda
hey,
not playing. She's definitely gonna wear that mask for the next 10 years.
well, look, let me do this right now. Let me do this right this moment because we're going to be getting into the conversation. Write this down. Um, 301 the text and join in the conversation. Um, just to make sure that you have it because there's going to be some strong opinions going left and right, up and down in it. But before we do that, and I know you didn't send it to me, and I didn't even remind you about this week in Black business because
Right.
last week we didn't do it, but this week I wanted to make sure we did it. So
Well,
I
I was a little thrown off, man. I was worried about tonight's show. I was like, oh man, it's heavy, so
yeah,
that kind of slipped my
worried
mind.
about the conversation tonight. What up, Mook? He was worried about it. He was worried about it in the worst way.
What it do, Moot? What it do?
In the worst way, man. But look, let me put that up again. 301 This is live. This is direct. If you want to come on, we'll bring you on.
Text
Join the
that
conversation.
number.
Text that number. Bring it in. Send it in. But hey, this week in Black business, I just wanted to share a good friend of mine, Evan Gordon. It is financial, Jabez tax solutions, financial solutions. Okay. Good people is
Mm.
if you need tax stuff, I know it's past that time, but they will work with you throughout the year to make sure you have all the right exemptions, you're claiming everything, you have the right amount of taxes, all your stuff in order. Tax preparation, credit repair, bookkeeping, if you own a business, or any other financial services that I help you learn how to utilize your money as a tool to generate wealth. A lot of people don't talk about it, but money that you earn should be utilized to keep earning you more money. If your money's making money for you, then you're in a better place than most. Okay. We usually trade our time for money, but we got to figure out how to trade our money for more money. So, Jabez Financial Solutions, that's jabezfinancialsolutions.com. Evan Boyden's owner. If you have any questions, go to their website, see them, quality people. There's some prices on there. Good God Almighty, you got prices on there. Tell you everything you need on there. If you need help with building credit score, training, rebuilding, and maintaining that, go talk to these people. There's the number 888-340-8433. JobAsFinancialSolutions.com. That is this week in Black business. Um, Next week we're gonna make sure we get two. We gotta stay up in there. Um, But are we diving in early? This is right around the time. What's
It's
up,
up to
Blue?
you, man. I know you say you were watching the
Oh,
verses before we came on live.
oh. So yes, right now at this very moment, Timberland and Swiss Beats are killing a versus rematch, and they are the only ones that I think should have a rematch. And they are murdering the game right now. I know it's hard because Timberland and Swiss Beats to me have two different. They have two different styles.
They
Um,
do.
they have two way different styles. Swiss Beats to me has like party. If it ain't party, it's straight street stuff that ain't for everybody, right? But then it's all party, and then it's street.
Right.
Timberland, eh, I mean, he encompasses the entire gambit. I mean, he done did Justin Timberlake, Genuine, uh, Beyonce, um, Usher. I
Aaliyah,
mean, everybody, bro, everybody.
Aaliyah, Missy Elliott,
Aaliyah, Missy Elliott. I mean,
Jay Z, Rockefeller.
Steve Rockefeller. His catalog is ridiculous. Not I'm not taking anything away from Swiss, but I don't on that battle. We watched a little bit of it. Who
Yeah.
you got?
Man, like, I mean, you hit it right on the head, man. Like, I couldn't have said it better myself. Two contrasting styles, depending on what mood you're in, you'd appreciate either beat maker.
Hmm.
But I think in a heads up battle, Timberland's just got too many hits, man. Too many beats in the catalog. Swiss Beats for me, if you've heard one, you've heard them all. And I think his style's great though, So if you like him, you love him. But if you heard one, you've heard them all. And Timberland, he's definitely got more versatility with his. Like you said, he's got the bangers with Carrie Hilson, Justin Timberlake. You got Missy Elliott. You got what's your girl? What's the girl who sung "Fly Like a Bird"? What's up, ma? How you doing?
Fine, like a bird. Hey, mama.
What's the girl's name? Promiscuous. That song, "Promiscuous Girl." Help me out.
I can't think of her name, bro.
Anyway, that's when he was going in the little club songs and everything. But I say Timbo, man.
You say Timbo, I say Timbo
Yeah,
too.
and like in the verses when I called it tonight, Timbo was punishing Swiss Beats with the J hits, like Jay Z back to back to back, and then
Yeah.
Swiss Beats pulled his Beyonce hits out his bag, and then all of a sudden your boy Timbo came back with
Nelly
the
Furtado.
pony
They got
Nelly
a
Furtado. There you
yep.
go, Sinead. Thank you. Yeah, the vast array of versatility is too much for Swiss Beats, man.
Mm, mm. 100%, 100%. So Timbo, that's Timbo two, Swizz zero. Okay. Don't at me. It's whatever. But look, let's talk about what we came to talk about tonight. Okay. We are
Man, you
here
excited, ain't you?
understanding. I'm not excited. No, this is a controversial topic.
Huh.
You can look. It can go the best possible way. It can go the worst possible way. But we are not going to shy away from it. Okay. Um, I did a promo, and some people took offense to it. Some people didn't take offense to it. We're here to seek and we'll understand. We want to have a simple conversation in regards to the LBGTQIAA plus. I think I practiced that. The alphabet people is what Dave Chappelle called them, but the community in which the LGBT community, because I'm going to share. Let me do this. Let me share this video because what really sparked it, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I told you it came out. What really sparked this within me was Demi Lovato. The See, there he go. The LMNOP people. Look, Demi
Mm.
Lovato came out a couple weeks ago, and came out as non-binary, right? Non-binary. And didn't we look up that definition? But let me
I
let
don't, I
me.
don't think we did it live on air.
I don't think we did a live on there either. You're right. Let me see if I can find. I think I found that video with Demi Lovato, right? So she can speak her truth. I haven't seen it yet, so it could be right, it could be wrong. We about to change it. I should have I should have preempted striked it though. But let's see what she said when she said. Hold on. Watch the goddamn ad on the podcast. Get that. There we
I
go.
realized after years of living my life for other people, trying to make
Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing to me, Demi? And you gave me the bed. I told you I ain't watching it.
I realized after years of living my life for other people, trying to make myself smaller for the patriarchy, because the patriarchy, they run the industry, right? They're at the center of everything. And so when I realized that, I thought, what are the ways that the patriarchy has been holding me back? And for me, it was putting me in a box, telling me that you are a female. This is what you're supposed to like. This is what you're supposed to do. Don't dream bigger and don't speak louder. That didn't vibe for me because I'm too outspoken for that.
All right, so look, she didn't even really go into what she was talking about. She is she is self-proclaiming herself now as not what's up, Saucy? She is self-proclaiming
Sauce and
herself
Draysky.
as non-binary. Okay, non-binary. So non-binary means this. Okay, and this is where we uh, got a little confusion. A trans non-binary person is someone who doesn't identify with the sex that was assigned at birth, trans, and also has a gender identity that can be categorized as exclusively male or female. So basically, what they're saying is, all right, I'm going to be non-binary, which means I'm not going to refer to them as he, she, or him and her. They're going to be they and them,
Hmm.
right? They and them. So when we were talking about this, we were trying to figure this out. Okay, the LGBT community has always fought hard, and if you're in here, you're part of the LGBT community. What's up? Is my mic low? You saying my mic is low? So if you're in here, please help us out. Look, if you are part of the LGBT community and your biggest your biggest priority in your fight has always been inclusion, right? Inclusion in being accepted as as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, all of it. Hey, Lovey, thank you for stopping in. Hopefully it's getting louder. Is it getting louder? Is it better? Michael check one two. Michael check one two two. This is live. We do it
Sounds
live,
louder.
okay? All right, cool. So if you've always been fighting for inclusion to be recognized for what you want, who you want to be recognized as, how does non-binary fit in that description?
Now, before you go hard on the direct hitting questions, K Dizzle, I think you
All
want
right.
to start off by saying these are just thoughts and ideas and opinions. we're just going to be asking questions. Nobody, I would say, is right or wrong. We do,
Right.
and we would love you guys to come out and get involved in tonight's conversation because me personally, I want to learn. I want
Right.
to be educated about the topic versus just sit back and comment and just give my opinion without having that education. So, I just wanted to throw it out there before you proceeded into asking your questions. But go ahead, bro.
You pulling out the asterisks already, man? Go.
No, I mean,
No, no, no.
out of respect.
Out of respect, 100%. And the reason why we're asking these questions, and I'm asking these questions, is because we're here seeking answers to um, understand it all. Look,
Yeah, I mean, whenever you don't know the ins and outs of something, I think the best thing to do is to ask the questions.
yeah, and the hardest thing to me is when I heard it was okay because I didn't know what non-binary was, so I had to go look it up,
Right.
and it felt to me at the surface contradictory to what the community has always been fighting for, in a sense of inclusion. So you fight for this inclusion, and at the same time you have a section of you that are asking to not be sectionalized or not be included in anything. Look, look, Ron. I appreciate your honesty, bro. I
Yeah.
appreciate your honesty 100%. I need to learn this because the whole topic is harder than Chinese arithmetic. Look. I, our community has a couple issues, and we're gonna tackle quite a few. There's not on that non-binary question, but also the acceptance and the acceptance of it. Look, I got two cousins. That's T's. You can call them. I don't care what you call them. Really, just respect them. They say all the other categories is something extra and political. Right. And I understand what you're saying, but
But before you get straight away, that comment right there, Mook, goes to what Cadis was saying as far as like, a lot of that community is always spoken about how they wanted inclusion and to be recognized. And now it's coming down to those categories, like this category versus that category. And in a way, you're still not I wouldn't say that's inclusion. So I think that's what you were getting ready to say, right?
yeah, yeah. But then in the other part of the conversation is the inclusion part in the community. So people just need to live and let live. If someone is not causing harm to the innocent, then we should mind our business. You're 100% exactly right, Shanae.
I agree.
I agree wholeheartedly. Um, but if you're talking about, okay, so let me use this example before we go before we go deep in. Let me use this example, okay? And the two have a completely different weight. 400 years versus probably, let's say 60 years, 60, 75 years. Um, African Americans and racial equality in America. Okay. What we've always ever been asking for, the only thing we've ever been asking for is equal opportunity and access, right? Equal opportunity and access, right? Respect what they want to be called and keep it moving. The confusion comes in is the LGBT community have been fighting for equality. Equality. They want equality and inclusion. They want to be they want to be accepted and what's the other sorry. They want to be accepted and they want the same access as heterosexual people as far as
Right.
marriage equality, legal equalities between spouses and relationships. They want those same equality.
And
So
family
and, and,
rights as well.
and family rights and everything else, right?
Hmm.
Like you said, like Mook said, everything else it complicates the water. So me as a simple individual, when I hear something like Demi Lovato say, "Okay, I'm non-binary," I'm confused because I'm not understanding what why is there a category. Well, let me. It is Chinese arithmetic, man. If you're non-binary and you say they and them, you're just no longer recognizing gender. You're no longer recognizing gender, which kind of defeats the purpose. I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're jumping into a conversation that's as vast as the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And we're putting our toe right now in just the shallow end of this whole topic. So where we can go is just limitless.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest thing is I asked the questions, K Dizzle, that again, I'm all about everybody living their lives and loving who they want to love. I think that's great, but my question is like, I don't want to offend or say the wrong things. Like when I'm conducting business with people who might have, traditional male names on their identification or their licenses, but they're kind of transitioning and they look like a woman. Like, do I say, sir, Mister, like, and that's just out of respect. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny or anything.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm
Yeah.
asking the questions, like, because as we're transitioning into this type of society, what are the guidelines and what are the border, I guess the lines of respect and communication as far as how to address people. And,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes down to the whole gender versus sex, because that's the basis too of this conversation. And I was
Right.
talking to my family yesterday about this. Like the gay and the sexual conversation or whatever sexual preference you have is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the other part of this is, I guess, what gender you identify yourself as.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line between having a conversation like talking about your child identifying with a specific gender versus your child coming to you and saying their sexual preference.
Right. And see, Lovey says to something. Shaggy, I see you tying the creep from the barber. Look, I always say we're okay with it until your son or daughter say they are part of the community. Then how okay would you really be? So
And not even just that, but at what age would you, I guess, like, could an 8-year-old or 7-year old come to you and have that conversation? And that was a question that I was asking. And my fiance was saying, well, basically, if you're a good parent, you know your child. And that's very true.
mm-hmm.
But sometimes, your child might, hey, Miss Rona,
Hey Rona.
sometimes your child might not feel comfortable with having that conversation. And you really can't see through it. And at that point when they do come to you, and not even like I said, there's a different conversation, Kay, when you're talking about a child coming to you and saying, mom or dad, I think I want to love the same sex versus, hey mom, hey dad, I really feel like I'm really a girl versus me being born a boy. Like those are two different conversations.
Right. Right.
Let's identify that. And I think when we ask the questions there, they're valid questions because any human being can be put in that situation. You can be as heterosexual as you want to be, but just like Lovey said, when your child comes to you and has that conversation, what are you going to say to your child? And are you going to be the parent that just knew your child was gay or a lesbian or what have you? Or would you be blindsided and not know what to say? And then, like, not to say anything too personal, but obviously Dwayne Wade's story was public, and they talked about that with his son, who pretty much identifies as a young girl.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you handle that conversation at 8, 9, 10 years old? Because the other side of the argument is when your child comes to you talking about sex at that age, a lot of parents believe that that child's too young to even have that conversation. So you might tell your child, hey, go back to the books or go back to playing with toys. We're not at that point to have that talk right now at 10 years old. But now we're talking about a 10-year-old saying, hey, I don't identify as being a boy
Mm-hmm.
or I don't identify as being a girl. So what do we do at that point as a society? Because you obviously have to love your child and help them, you know, be and feel, I guess, how they want to be and how they want to live their lives. But society is not necessarily set up for that.
So you're getting into a really deeper conversation as whereas, as parents, right? How do you bring your children up? How are you rearing your children? to a point where, because I don't think your kid's going to come. Well, you never know with with the fine information, but I don't think kids are coming to their parents at that point saying, um, you know, I'm not a I'm not a boy or I'm not a girl. I think that as a parent, you know your child, and as a parent, you understand what some of the things that your child gravitates to, and you got to ask yourself as a parent when you're dealing with your children, if you're seeing certain things, you're recognizing certain things and paying attention to certain things more often than not. So you ask you now you have to internalize and figure out how you're going to approach it. Right. Rashawn says, I
Right.
feel like the whole LGBT community is not on the same page themselves. They say all different things when someone wants to understand them.
Hey, and Rashawn is one
Hey,
third of the Cookout podcast, man. Check those guys out.
yeah, shout out to the Cookout
Man, they
podcast,
have
man.
their shows off the hook, man. So shout out to Rashawn. Thanks for coming through. And they
Thanks for
all
the
say
too,
they
bro.
all say different things when someone wants to understand them. But the biggest thing is I think the majority of the population wants to understand.
Hmm.
I definitely want to understand it because I could be in that position, as
Yeah,
a parent. And I guess people are now saying like when your girl Demi Lovato was talking about non-binary, right?
yeah.
So as a parent, you're telling me I necessarily shouldn't put blue on my son or put pink on my daughter. I should allow them to pick the color of clothes that they want to wear at 2 or 3 years old, or
Right.
allow my toddler to wear girl shoes versus quote unquote boy shoes, because I guess that's what they're saying we put on these children to make them feel like these are boy shoes or these are girl shoes. But now we're really, and see, this is where I might get chastised, but now we're really overcomplicating things. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, these are shoes. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
let your child put on what they want to put on so they can feel confident and go out and have a good life. But at the same time, society's not ready for that. So you got to call a spade, because when you let your child, who's a boy, quote unquote, now we got to do that for basic terms, put on girl clothes and go to school in kindergarten wearing all pink,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? That child's not going to get received like the average kindergartner, and he might not get abused, but he might get a lot of kids coming up to him asking him questions because they're raised in a traditional household, and
Mhm.
little boys don't wear all pink, or don't wear girl shoes, or don't have girl toys, or play with Barbie dolls. So I just think that to care for those kids is to ask those questions, because they're going to run into tough situations. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Man, that's I mean, yeah, we're gonna dig because then at the same time, right? You want you're trying to foster, and allow your child to grow into whoever they are, right? At the same time, you're trying to protect your child from the things of the world, and you don't know, um, you kind of you don't know what they may decide. Like I said, you sometimes you see some things, sometimes you don't see some things. Now we're getting into how to raise a child in this new age, and being cognizant of the possibilities of um, um, they may consider they may be born transgender. So that in itself is super hard. I can't even begin to describe
Let me
the
ask you a
human
question.
aspect of that, So
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. I don't mean to put
go
you on the
ahead.
spot. What age do you believe is too young for your child to start identifying to the opposite sex? Not sexually, but as far as them believing that they're not born what they were born.
What age is too young?
Yeah, what age do you think would be too young for you to think that they can rationalize that type of opinion about themselves?
Ask that, Chad. If you got an answer to that, I don't.
Can somebody come on and help me understand? I want to be educated, and I want to learn versus just speaking to public space and not have a good conversation, because I don't want to say anything wrong, because I'm ignorant to the conversation. I
Well,
really want to learn
it's not a
about
situation. It's not a situation as to when the child knows, because the child doesn't know. The child just has feelings, right? The child just has feelings, one way or the other, and the only way that they work through their feelings is through the guidance of their parents on which way to go, on which way they decide. And there's no right or wrong. There's no particular age, or there's no particular time or moment. It's just it's hard. Like, Mark Stinson, it's like what hand you choose to use. Nobody can tell you what feels right. If you try to use the wrong hand, it will not be natural and fluid. I think they are saying who they want to be. It should feel as natural as using the right hand to do it.
it.
I'm that's freaking perfect. That's freaking perfect answer.
Yeah.
When you get into the children part. But let's push back into the adult side of it, because, like you said, man, it's I think a child is a child. Can't make a permanent decisions as a kid.
See,
Great
that's what I'm
answer,
talking
Ron.
about.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
you really
talking about. So
you re-
when you come and you ask to have that conversation, from what? How old was Dwayne Wade's child when they had that conversation?
I think he was in mid teens. In his
I
mid
don't
teens.
think he was that old at all. He's not even in his mid teens now.
He's like 12 or 13, ain't he? He
Barely.
might have been 8 or 9. Who
So
knows?
okay, so
He might
I
have been
think
8 or
he was that. I don't believe he was older than 10 years old.
I don't know how
So
old he was.
so I've been told that as a parent they probably already knew that,
Yeah.
because they were present and they were around their child and they interacted with their child. But
Hmm.
like Arizona Ron said, I guess he's making a permanent decision. But on the flip side, people might say it's not a decision.
Mm,
On the flip side, Arizona, and I'm looking at it from a very, subjective perspective here, is
hmm.
like it's not a decision. It's how he was born. It's his life. It's his path. So it's not really him making a permanent decision. You see how the fine line is so thin,
Right. Right. Right.
because it's not like he's deciding at 10, hey,
Yeah.
I want to be a girl.
Hmm.
He's saying I'm not a boy. And
Yeah.
and 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 is he too young, Arizona, at that point?
That's in any subject. Can't make permanent decisions as a
Okay.
kid. Very, very true. Very true. And look, I got somebody in the back. It said, "Come on!" And while we're talking about this conversation, and it sparked same thing with that Demi Lovato conversation. Bring him aboard, Mark. Mark Nebo, welcome to the group, my guy. Welcome. Can you hear us? Okay. You
Yeah.
look
Can you
good.
hear me?
You feel good? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, feel good.
Welcome,
Feel
Mark. What's
good.
up,
Look
man?
good.
Now, Mark, I know you, okay, and you raise your kids to be as free as birds, okay. I know that you're a good dude. I know you from your heart. And when we were having this discussion about Demi Lovato and the whole non-binary situation, we did start going to the realm of children and kids. Um, but help me understand this, the non-binary thing, the non-binary issue that we're trying to dig into, because, like I said, it doesn't make sense to me, bro.
So
Go ahead.
I think the best way to think about it is, and it's great that you guys started to talk about raising kids, because a lot of times when people come out and identify as non-binary, that is often the the infancy of like their first step out to trying to be. I'm not what society says is one of these two things, binary, that I should be. Uh, and I may not be sure exactly where I'm at in that spectrum, but this is where I feel comfortable now. And a lot of it is it's a journey that they're just trying to figure things out. So in a way, it's similar to when a young person is going through their thought processes on who they are. It's similar in that way. It's different because when an adult or when a younger child or an adult decides to make that step and come out and say, I don't fit into these brackets, it's usually after quite a long battle with those brackets and
So,
why they struggle with it.
hey Kim, So what you're saying basically, Mark, is non-binary is like the stepping stone to trying to figure out what you are. It's like saying, okay, I'm not who I am. I'm not what society wants me to be, but I don't know if I want to be LBGTQIA.
Well, you guys, you said a couple things I was watching before that I think it's really important to address. And like when you talk about LGBTQ, everything,
Right.
it's like gender and sexuality are 100% separate, right? And
Go ahead.
If you think about it from the perspective of that, then yes, right?
Okay.
A person that is coming out and saying they're non-binary, they may stay there their whole life, and they may never feel that they are fitted well into any category because gender is a spectrum. But yeah, they could continue to try to figure it out. It's not that different in that way than a person's faith. If a person decides that they're in a one, raised in one faith, and then they transition to another faith, or they start feeling different feelings about that, it's like they may not understand where they are, but they usually start by saying, I'm not here. That's all I know. And then they go forward from there.
Hey, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining the show. I want to say that first and foremost. I mean, I'm definitely learning a lot just from hearing you talk on this subject because I want to learn. Like I said, I need some education on it. But let me ask you a question. I've heard different reports and different stories about how there's being an agenda pushed on to the public and society about this non-binary movement. Do you believe in such things as an agenda and things like that being pushed on to other kids and other families?
I do think there's an agenda, and I think it's an important one, because when you go back to the middle part of the 1900s, as you guys remarked earlier, that was a calling card for the opposition against the civil rights movement too. Was that there was an agenda that was being pushed for the advancement of people of color, and it's not. A lot of times it's called an agenda because that is a good way to say, this is what I feel is normal, and this other thing that I don't understand, that I fear, that I'm concerned about, is being pushed into my field of view, and I don't like it. So I do think there's an agenda if you look at it like that. Do I think that there's a plan to corrupt people and recruit people or something like some of the people on the right would say? No, I think that's just fear mongering. Really,
Yeah, nobody's talking
Okay.
about the people. Nobody's
Thank you.
talking about the people on the phrase on the phrase of society. We all know who those people are, and those are the crazies. I think you said something that was hugely important because there's within the community there's a difference. There's a difference between gender and there's a difference between sex, sexual orientation,
Right.
and that separates, and that causes two different conversations to be had at the same time, right? So when we're talking about children, we're talking about two different spectrums that the child could be on. We're talking about they could either feel their sexual orientation on what they and what they prefer can either be changed or feel a certain way, or their gender as they grow, they feel like they need to change their gender.
So what
Am
about
I
that
saying
though?
that right? Am I saying that right?
So yeah, that is, it's just like anybody. Your kids they're just tiny adults that are learning at a breakneck speed that we all wish we could learn at, right? Yeah. So when kids are doing things for the first time, which is, I mean, how awesome would it be that if literally every day we ran into new things, right? And we try to figure it out. That would be amazing. But as we get older, we see less and less new stuff because we've seen a lot, right? But when you're a kid, you don't, everything's new, right? So if you see something that you like and you just start doing it. For example, I have 2 kids. So far, it seems like, as far as all of my understanding, I have 3 kids, but I'm talking about my 2 younger ones. My 2 younger ones, it seems like from everything of my understanding, they seem to be, boys, and they seem to be very comfortable considering themselves boys. They don't seem to have any battles with that, but we don't know what they've run into. They may run into things later that make them think differently, but that's where we are now with them. But they do all kinds of things that some parents that have a rigid misunderstanding of gender and sexuality might consider feminine. They wear all kinds of colors. They play with all kinds of toys. When we go to McDonald's, for example, we order a Happy Meal. They already are in the mindset of they want to know what the toy is. They don't want to be said, is it a boy toy or a girl toy? They want McDonald's to tell them what's in there, and then they pick based off of what the toy is, right? So it's like when you're experiencing things for the first time, you're always going to initially go off of what appeals to you. And I think when you get to the point of gender and what am I, it's like, it's hard because sometimes society tries to tell you what you are, and then it doesn't match up with how you feel, and that can be a struggle.
So Mark, what about the aspect of nature and biology per se? What about the fact that you just made a comment about society not being able to tell you what you are, but can nature or biology tell you what you are?
It does. And nature and biology and science has shown this time and time again, especially with the study of gender and genetics and things, that most people are not 100% male or female. Most of them are on a gender spectrum. Now, does that play into our lives where we feel like we're on a gender spectrum? I think it does a lot more than we think. I think a lot of people struggle with things privately that they don't share, and it can hurt them. And eventually, if that hurt becomes too strong, they could do something dangerous, or they could come out. But nature does play a factor in it. I mean, because you've got gender as far as your mental situation, like who you are inside, but then we're born with
physical
attributes, right?
Physical attributes.
And that's one of the parts that makes it so hard, because I mean, you look at Elliot Page, right? That was 6 months ago, a year ago, when Elliot Page said that they're going to be using male and male pronouns and came out as transmasculine. It's like,
what the fuck is transmasculine?
That's a trans man, right? I'm glad you brought that up. And let me
what the
finish
fuck
the
is
thought
that
real quick, and then I'll circle back to that. So when he came out and said, I'm a trans man, my name's Elliot, I would like to be, I want people to use he, him pronouns. There was a lot of support for that, because the closer you get to trans people, the more you realize that they battle internally, and just being able to get over that hump is very emotional.
Now, Elliot was born a woman, correct?
Right.
What's up, Purcell?
Big P.
So Elliot, okay. So
like
Elliot
you said about transmasculine and trans men, it's like they are kind of, it's so different when someone comes out as a trans woman like Caitlyn Jenner versus someone that comes out as a trans man like Elliot Page, because society still pins femininity as weaker and lesser in general. So
Right.
if
But
a,
even Caitlyn Jenner, not to cut you off, but even Caitlyn Jenner, in my opinion, contradicted the movement by stating he doesn't believe trans men should play in women's sports.
yeah, Caitlyn Jenner is
Is
shitty.
isn't that kind of weird?
Caitlyn Jenner's a shitty person. But like she's shitty, and that's not has nothing to do with her being trans. She's just an asshole, basically.
But
Okay.
let me just on Hef's question, on Hef's statement, right? And I'm gonna ask the chat too. Do you think it's fair? And Mark, you can answer this after I ask. Do you think it's fair for transgender people to transgender to play in competitive sports outside of their born gender? Is that fair? Is that a fair thing to have
That's a
to
good
allow?
question. It's a really
Is
good
that a
question.
fair thing to allow?
It is. And the only reason I will the best thing I can say to a person that may feel otherwise is that there are so many trans athletes that are just terrible anyway. They're just bad. They're never going to be able to be competitive anyway. But at the top levels of sport, it's like the margins are so thin. You have to realize most trans women would just get crushed by most female athletes.
But wait a minute. Well, I got 3 no's so far. Carlito, Darian, Purcell, they all said no because
it's a hard subject because people don't want to imagine in their head, a trans woman.
Well,
what happens is
just dunking on their daughter.
What happens is you
I don't want to imagine that.
You always turn a corner, Mark, and you always hit the wall of nature and science, in my opinion, because us as a human being, species, we have these broadened thoughts and ideas and opinions, but sometimes, a duck is a duck. You know what I mean? And I think that's what happens. And unfortunately, you contradict yourselves by saying, I want to be who I, feel that I identify as, which is a woman. But because I was born with a penis, I can't play in sports with women. I think that's discrimination, and that goes against their overall message, in my opinion.
The truth of the matter is, though, that the numbers of times that a trans athlete has risen to the top of the sport and has come out, and it's been like, look at this trans athlete, crushing these girls in sports, is super small. It's not like the vast majority of athletes playing in women's sports are trans or anything like that. If that was the case, you would have the entire WNBA would be trans women, but that's not the case. It's like the majority of the time it doesn't make an impact. So if it doesn't make an impact, I think we're better leaning on the side of supporting our already beaten, abused, and marginalized trans daughters and allowing them to play a sport with the people that are most like them. That's what I think.
Okay. So what about this then? So we talk about people changing the cards that they were dealt physically and genetically and scientifically, right? So I'm 5'10" on a good day. And in my heart, I identify as a 6'6", basketball player who can do so many things, but I'm really not physically gifted in that regard. So could I have surgery to be 6'6" because I wasn't born that way? Or is my analogy ignorant and totally off base?
No. Yeah, it is ignorant and off base. And it's not okay. It's not, and people say that kind of stuff a lot. Some of them say it in a conversationally provoking and non-destructive way, like you just did, and so that's fine in this context. But a lot of people,
thank you, because I definitely just want to ask the question.
Yeah, but a lot of people will use that similar mindset with the, what if I identify as a a turtle or something like
trying
that.
to rationalize.
And that's trying to
Rationalize with the irrational.
right. That's a classic fallacy that's used as a weapon to divide and abuse people.
Yeah. So, and that's in it's two totally different things trying to put them as one. And that's all. That's what it is. When we say Ron said, is that a sign of nature rejects the notion? Our gender is determined by God, nature, or man. You're getting into a spiritual conversation, and what you determine what that to be. He said, you have plastic surgery to change something you want to change about yourself. You're 100% correct. But there's a difference between what's possible and what's impossible. You're not going to be able to add 2 feet to your body unless you kill a man to get 2 inches off of him, 2 feet off of him. That's something. That's those totally different things. For a man to become a woman has an advantage. Men produce more muscle, can have a slight advantage. Yes, that is the conversation and the controversy.
That's the biological portion behind it.
That's the biological portion behind it. But that's still we're talking about who that person identifies as. And when we have that controversial conversation saying, you guys said it, you said it quick without question. No, a man can't play with women in the sport because you feel like that's a advantage to the man. Physically, that's an advantage to the man. And it's only going to take one guy. It's only going to take one transgender woman that rise to the top and be Jordan in the WNBA. And for then everyone to be fully against it. Now,
but how can you say in every other context that a man can be a woman, but then you tell him and deny him the ability to play in a female sport?
Exactly.
And that's the problem. So you really can't. You're really not allowed to.
The problem is we cannot make rules for society based on extreme examples. We have to make rules in society and culture that are aligned for like the 999,999, not the 1 out of a million people,
right?
Because that's not how society works,
right?
You know,
it's the same way as there were laws, there were red lines, and there were laws against African Americans to do certain things, and that's just segregation against certain people because they didn't believe it was right. That was the belief at that time. So it's a tough thing to say. Okay, well, if you're going to go the inclusive route, you have to be fully inclusive in all things. And when we started this discussion, we didn't understand what non-binary. I didn't understand what non-binary means. Now I understand it's a stepping stone for people who don't want to sectionalize themselves as being A, B, or C. They're just saying, you know what, I don't know what I am, so call me this for now.
I think it's safer instead of saying I don't know. And if I said that, I apologize. I don't think that's the right way to look at it.
That's how I understand. You didn't say that. That's how I took it.
I think that
I'm not sure.
I think that it's more apt to look at it like a person that's saying they're non-binary. They're not necessarily just saying I don't know yet or I don't know now. They're saying I'm not this. I'm not one of these two baskets that I've been told I fit in, and I want to try to figure that out. Maybe I stay not being sure. Maybe I figure out where I'm going. I don't know, but I can tell you for sure I'm not one of these two things.
Hey, well, what about this? What about this? You have also the ability to change your mind. You know, as human beings, we change our mind. And Mark, I know you've been in my industry and you've been a experienced sales person as well. We're professional mind changers. So when you have kids coming to you, saying certain things and certain beliefs, do you look at them and say, hey, I love you, you know, I know you're going to do how you feel, but, you know, could they change their mind in 2 years? I'm just asking the question.
Hey,
I hope I don't get chastised for it. Now, here's the thing. The follow-up, though, is, and then when you have these strong feelings that could possibly be changed, how can you set rules and guidelines when all of a sudden, hey, I'm not feeling this way anymore?
And before you answer that, Carlito, I know you have strong opinions. Text me at that number. Text me at that number 301-857-1757. I will send you a link because I want to ask you a question on where does it stop? 301-857-1757 or anybody else who wants to join the conversation. We'll bring you on to ask
Please.
you questions. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mark.
So when you talk about people changing their minds,
Mhm.
Stupid Shaggy.
especially as a kid, right? Um, that's the job of a parent, is to nurture a kid to be as healthy and confident and uh, comfortable in their own body as possible, and to make smart decisions and all that. But when it comes to identity, I think that, like, if my boys end up and they say, oh, I'm not sure, maybe I feel like I might be a girl, or I'm not, because they're not going to know the words. They're not going to know what to say. But if they start talking like that, the only thing I can do as a loving parent, in my opinion, is to say, help them, encourage them to talk about it more, help them talk through it, talk just to them about, like, they should be who they feel. And that's the beginning of a journey too, just like everything else. I mean, how many people do we know wanted to be one thing and then wanted to be something else and want to be something else, like career wise? And when you're first starting trying to figure out things and you're going through puberty and all that, everything's super confusing anyway. So I think it's important just to allow them to listen to their bodies and listen to themselves and try to feel their way through it. What's destructive is when we try to say, know this, and then their inner feelings are fighting against what, like, the people that they're supposed to be looking to for guidance tell them is wrong or tell them is not the right way. And that's when things get bad, and
Yeah.
kids
Well,
start to
Mark.
get broke
Well,
down.
Shanae
well,
said
Mark,
it
I
perfectly.
want to say, you're breaking down some really good stuff, and like Shanae and you were saying,
Yep.
and Kay, I know you were about to touch on and have a conversation with your kids. We shouldn't force our beliefs on anyone. So coming off of that, real quick, forcing beliefs on your kids. So if your child comes to you and he says what you just said, Mark, I am not a boy, but biologically he's a boy. Is the far right wrong by saying that doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a one-word
Okay.
answer. Hold on. Let me pull Carlito in the back conversation. Carlito,
Yo, yo,
welcome.
what's up? Hey, look, I didn't know it would be live, man, and I would go with this video.
Oh yeah,
Sir,
it's live, but
it's live,
on an
man. We
all
see your
dressed up
whole skill and
podcast.
everything, bro.
Oh
We see your whole
man,
the forehead and
yeah,
everything.
hey, look, I ain't washed my face. I'm eating a tuna fish sandwich.
Oh man.
I got a lot going on over here.
Go ahead, man.
Hey, look, so not to get too super deep into it because it seems like it's a light conversation. So the thing is, when it comes to that subject, is where does it end? Because see, the same argument that the LGBTQ is making is the same argument that someone that's very intelligent and smart can make, that's a pedophile, and you want to push that agenda. Or I forget what it's called when when you want to marry animals or have sex with animals. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I go into this because because it talks about this in the Bible. And it talks about at a certain time, this is like the, if you want to say, like gateway, like how they say like weed is the gateway for other drugs, and then it just keeps coming in. But see, at a certain point, someone is going to come along and push these same things across. They're going to. I can't, like, the same argument that's being made, I can't see. I stay up thinking about it, like, well, oh yeah, well, if somebody likes a child, or someone that, or what we may deem as a child, they may argue, well, this person really isn't a child. We may say a 10-year-old is too young, but they may argue, well, they can think, they can speak, they can say yes and no. So that's pretty much where I want to, to go.
So if I can jump in there, so the argument of, and this is another weaponized fallacy that that the right uses to try to, beat back the people trying to be who they are. It's called the slippery slope fallacy. It's the idea that a very small step will lead to unintended consequences.
Mhm.
And again, it's great that, mostly the audience and the people in the chat and here are people of color, because it's good, because you can look at the civil rights movement to see the same exact arguments used against black people in the 50s. Where does it end? Where they want to go to school with us. They want to sit at the lunch counter, right? And it's like, it really, really is a mirror of that, because
But there's a small difference though, because you weren't, and not to take it left, but you're not born choosing to be black,
right,
and at the end of the day,
born to choosing to what their gender is. They're not born in a one or two basket. They're not born with, everybody's born with these internal workings, right? And the only difference between gender and on the gender spectrum and sexuality with race is apparent right away, right? But you're still born with all these things. You just don't realize them until later, but they're in there all the time. So it is a fair comparison.
Yeah, I mean, that's so that's when, yeah, I know you lost connection. You're raggedy. I don't know what kind of phone you got, jitterbug or something. Get your life together, bro.
and no, of
But,
course
but
you're
no,
not choosing to be a boy when you're born, Chris Live Stream, and that's my point. But
yeah,
you're making a decision that that's not what you identify as post, becoming born.
You're only making that decision based on your lived experience from what you were when you were born. That stuff's all in there in your DNA, in your genetics. As soon as you hit the ground running, all that stuff's in you. But the difference is, I didn't know I was going to be bald until I was 30, right? I didn't. It's like, you don't know, a lot of times you don't know that you're going to be gay, or that you're going to be bi, or that you're going to be trans, or that you're going to be non-binary. And part of the reason why sometimes that takes so long to come to terms with is because society beats you over the head with, these things are bad. You shouldn't think about these things. You shouldn't have these kind of thoughts. You shouldn't have these emotions. But they're in there from the beginning.
Okay. No, I really, like I said, man, good facts from Mark Nebo tonight, coming through on the deep conversation. K
yeah,
Dizzle, this is a deep one, man. Like I said, this is something that we talked about, coming from a level of respect.
yeah.
We're asking questions so we can be educated about this topic. So, Carlito, welcome, man. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good, pretty good.
Thanks for coming through, man.
Yep.
He
All
can't,
right,
he
bro.
can't, man.
I
You
didn't get
got
her.
to. And can't nobody hear you, bro. With your broke ass phone. I'm gonna kick you out, and
He's
then I'm
on
gonna send the
again.
link again, because your shit is terrible. I'm gonna send your ass the link again so you can bring it in. I see you in the back. Get up out of there and come back. But no, this is a genuine conversation. I think when there's so many different levels and avenues to it, because you bring God into it, you bring a whole different dynamic in conversation. You bring religion into it, and we've gone across the entire spectrum of how do you raise kids, how do you properly raise kids and allow them to be free and allow them to be who they are. We've also talked about trying to figure out what non-binary is, and how it is defined, and whether or not it clashes with the entire movement and what it is. It is a true rabbit hole, Ron.
Yeah,
True
it
rabbit
is.
hole. And the third part of it is, that we talked about was, inclusion as far as sports is concerned. People choose to believe science when it's convenient for them. That's a fact, not fiction. And another part that we talked about was yeah, another part of it was, um, trying to figure out, the timing it takes. So when you're figuring out the difference between gender and between sex, because it's huge.
But what
And
about the societal part about it, guys, too, here
what
in the chat? I'm going to ask this question. When you have a lot of people not being educated in this topic, right?
Mhm.
And, when you are interacting with other people who are more educated in this arena, like a lot of people don't really know how to move, Mark, and how to address, people who are trans, and
Yeah.
and they don't even mean it to be disrespectful. And that's the thing. Like I truly believe in my heart, people should love and live how they want. And I don't want to say yes, sir, or no, ma'am, because traditionally that's how you're taught to show respect. And I might get it wrong, or I'm just
It's
throwing that
ma'am.
question out there.
It's
So I
ma'am to you,
can give you some advice on
ma'am.
only because I have been in this community and helping and leaning on this for a long time.
Hmm.
And this is what I would suggest. If you start to just try to not use pronouns at all on the first interaction with a person, that's going to help a lot, right? So instead of saying sir or ma'am and taking a shot at what you think someone is, just say
Uh-huh.
excuse me, right? If you're referring to someone in a work environment and you either know they're trans or you don't know the situation, you can just use their name. I try to not use pronouns at all with people if I can help it. I just try to use a person's name. That's the easiest way to move forward with that.
So
And
if they're visibly a full dressed woman, but their name on their license says Reggie, should I just say Reggie?
no, that's you just ask them. If you don't know,
So is that offensive if I ask them what is your name? Like, should I call you a different name than what's on your license?
uh, that is not, because you're trying to do the right thing, and most trans people in a situation like that would appreciate your effort.
Okay.
Carlito, get your camera right. I swear to God, I'm gonna punch you in your face next time I see you with your
And like
wandering
I said,
camera.
I appreciate you
Yeah,
answering some of these questions because I know a
yeah.
lot of the questions sound off the wall, and some people scoff like, "Oh, I'm being funny," and I'm really trying to ask honest questions because
No,
I think there's no harm in trying to understand,
I
and I've been taught.
thing as far as like I said, the biggest thing as far as like trying to move around in the society we live in and not trying to be offensive and trying to do the best you can is just with everybody, even if you're talking to Kermit, try to move away from using pronouns at all if you can, because that will help you eventually. Because I've done it. I've mostly eliminated pronouns, and it's super easy and doesn't even sound weird when you say it. Like, if you just use a person's name, and if you're trying to say, if you get in a situation where you do need to use a pronoun, just use your best judgment. And if you do make a mistake and somebody gets upset, just be good natured and say, I'm sorry about that. How would you like me to refer to you? What can I do to help? And just try. It goes a long way with just trying to do the right thing, really.
Do you feel like society has to, and I'm going to use this, I guess this phrase, walk on eggshells with this community because it seems like cancel culture is very prominent in today's media when it comes to people not saying the politically correct things about the community. And a lot of people had to, almost do damage control because of things that were said before their careers, during their careers. And should society be given a pass when they make these mistakes, or should the community be as I'd say, should they just expect everybody just to get it right?
I think that you said two things that are a little bit contrasting. Like,
Okay.
if a person makes a mistake in real time and shows contrition for that and tries to do the right thing, that's not going to be something that's going to get you canceled. When you get canceled is when you can look at someone from the outside when they're saying something, whether it's a racial slur or a transphobic slur or anything that's derogatory towards anyone. You can tell if that's a thing that they're trying to do to be hurtful or if that's a mistake and they want to do the right thing. Everybody, you can tell that from the outside. And then when you're talking about looking at a person's past, people go back, 8 years and look at somebody's Twitter from 8 years ago. Things were very different 8 years ago. If I saw that
Ah,
someone
shit.
had said something 8 years ago and it came to light and they apologized and they showed, not just with their words but with their actions, that they are trying to do the right thing and trying to learn, I think that they should be given another opportunity. I mean, America loves a comeback, but if you make a mistake in real time and you understand that and you try to learn from it, that's not something that is usually going to get you destroyed. Hopefully.
Shit. Cancel culture is cancel culture. If they don't like you, they're gonna find something. They're gonna find something to
They're
fucking
gonna
destroy you with.
find shit.
Trust me. That's why I've always told people, look, I like politics. I'll never run for office because on my Twitter feed I've said fuck the police way too many times. So they will look for me.
I never knew you of a fuck the police kind of guy.
Oh, without a doubt. Even though I have police officers in my family, I've said that multiple
Big
times.
time. I am big time. All cops are bad, and I'm ready for that show too.
Oh man,
Nebo, thank you for stopping in, my guy. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Helping us to understand.
Or thank you, Mark. I shouldn't say
thank you, Mark.
No, you making progress.
All right, bro. We'll sign you out. But look, man, look.
There you have it.
There you freaking have it. Deprogram, Ron. Deprogram yourself. Now it's something else.
Start
you got to learn.
deprogramming now. Start deprogramming.
Deprogramming now. Him, her. How many times has it happened when you said sir, or ma'am, and it should be wrong?
It's like double dutching, right? It's like you don't know when to jump in. You got, you're like, sir, man. I don't know.
Excuse me.
Did you see that? Did you see that person? But again, it's like jokes. I don't want to be on here thinking we're being insensitive, man, because it's not us being insensitive. It's us asking the questions because I need to seek to understand as opposed to just judge, because I really respect everybody's opinions and I want people to live their lives and live happily and love each other the way they want to love. But
Darius said he do that shit on the phone every day. He talks to somebody on the phone, be like, "Sir, excuse me, I'm a ma'am." So I didn't know that baritone in your voice.
It just comes down to I guess listening to your kids, being there early, addressing everybody by home.
Yeah, everything. Hey, how you doing? Hey,
listen to your kids, be there, understand them, be present. Because society is changing. Like it or not, you got to face the reality here. Exactly. And then half the time, Pete, she's not even pregnant, right?
Oh, God. There's so many mistakes we can make as humans. And we're just trying to make sure that we don't make as many. I think this was a truly productive conversation just because if you don't know, hopefully you've learned something coming out of it. And it is a stirring conversation just because there's so many different parts to it that some things we can agree with, some things we may not agree with, right? Someone's like, okay, I agree with you living your lifestyle, but then some of us is like, whoa, wait a minute, a man can't play sports because you're still looking at it in a certain way, right? The same way white people said, okay, you know what, they can come to our school. Then they said, whoa, can't live in our neighborhood. Time out. Can't live in our neighborhood. No good. No bueno.
There tends to always be a caveat.
It always be given caveat. We're always looking for the line to say, okay, you can do this, but not this. And that's the gist of it. If you're going to include, you're going to be inclusive, you got to be all in on it. Whatever it is, whatever it may be,
there's no caveat. That's what I said.
And you gotta be, you gotta be about it, and you have to be, you don't have to be accepting of it as a person, but you just be respectful of it as a person. And so it's crazy. I just thought about that and went in all into what we do.
Well, hopefully everybody can keep an open mind and just know that society's not the same as it was back when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, in the 70s for UK. But
fuck you.
But it's a great conversation. I appreciate the chat. Thank you, Mark Nebo, for coming through and sharing your thoughts and opinions. And that's what we want. Hit us up on the socials, man. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about, man. Episode 17
in the
book,
man.
Was a great episode, man.
What? Mark and Gray, all those who text me on the phone number. Sinead, Lovey, Ron, if I miss you, I still love you. Shaggy, what up?
My
Purcell,
Dukes, Miss Rona,
my
Full
Dukes,
Beer,
Linda.
Chris Bob,
Man,
Green.
we doing a whole shout out to end it. This is like a mixtape ending. shout out to the outro. No, but seriously,
Hey, but a lot of shows don't love the people like that, and we know that. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about great conversation.
The Cookout
have fun.
Podcast with Sean slided through, man. Hey,
Vuskeen Cookout Podcast, Realities Podcast.
This doesn't happen. This doesn't be successful. Nobody knows us unless you help us and you share it. You ain't got to share. You can tell somebody. I don't give a shit how you do it. We're here every Sunday at 9 p.m. But yeah, I should pull the horn out. But look, man, every Sunday you can find us at facebook.com/ADU podcast. I have streams everywhere, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Find me everywhere, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Take this number in your phone. We will bring you on, even with my man Carlito, with not knowing how to use his camera.
He had Xfinity Mobile, man.
He's a pop, okay?
Xfinity Mobile.
He's a pop. He don't know how to use his camera. Lovey, show him how to use his camera next time. He can't be coming in here can't be looking at the ceiling and all that stuff. Talking about he ain't wash his face. What type of man? It's 9 o'clock at night. Look, we love y'all, man. Shout out to the underdogs and everybody who watches this. F, what you got for me, baby?
Hey, man. I know that's right, Carlito. Arizona, peace to you, man. Good topic, good conversation. I think it was something that a lot of people fear, diving deep on because people don't want to say the wrong things. And I think if you address the topic with love and an open mind and an open heart, you can make progress just like with anything. Stick with this episode 18 next week.
Episode
I'm
18.
out.
Love y'all. Peace.
And you know, and I know, and they know, and we know, we go all in, you know, and I know, they know.